Is it going, guys? Let me see if I can find my my share button here. Just a second. There you go. Hey, can't believe it's the last one, guys. Jesus, it went so fast. Those things go too fast. This is the second one. Well, again, I cannot thank you enough for being here with me. Let me just I think you can see me now. Can't believe this is the last one, guys. I mean, I started this as a little experiment last month to see if this would work, and apparently it's working. So now you're here in the second one, almost at the end. Cannot believe it. I did a couple of things yesterday, as you can tell, and today, because it was 4th of July here. If you guys are not in the United States, today was a holiday here for us. So I took the time, and my wife took the kids to the park today, like the whole day. They had a fair in here, and I took the time to actually do some work on this guy. So I'm basically just reusing the clothing from my previous models. Both like Rick Baker and Dick Smith share the same, it's like the same suit. So I'm kind of like reusing stuff. I just blocked the tie in there, so I have to sculpt it still. And this the shirt is also a little bit blocked. The cool thing about that is that I was able to actually revise the volume of his neck and also the shoulders just by looking at the references. It's like with the clothes on, it's like how much I would have to remove of that volume. And it seems like he used to wear those shirts pretty tight against his neck. So I have to build up like the bulging around here and then kind of like dig in and build the bulging in there. And I started experimenting with some colors as well. So this is the render I have. I was looking for patterns like for plaid, because he loved to, it's like to have like this plaid kind of, patterns for all his suits. Kind of like a happy kind of guy, right? And just like I said yesterday, I was talking about like the differences in lighting and how much it changes things, right? So this is like rendered with one type of lighting, the one that's kind of like the flashlight from the front, right? And this one is more like the lighting, the studio lighting, right? And this studio lighting here has the same intensity for both sides, like I was talking about yesterday, right? It was just like 35 for the intensity. But then in this case here, I did a couple of tests. Like, so I rendered this one with the same intensity, both sides. And then this one with like, I think it's like 1/8 of the intensity. So more intense in this side and a little bit less in here. It's actually good to experiment with that. It's like you see what kind of mood you want to go. In this case here, it looks like a kind of candid, right? Because it's almost like he's sitting by a window. So basically like the intention of those, the studio lighting, to have like those large soft boxes, is to actually simulate like natural light, right? So it's almost like someone is sitting by the window, and then you just like simulating that window light, right? That's why you need like a daylight calibrated, color to make sure that it reads like something natural coming in, right? Instead of like a incandescent kind of light. So I'm still not decided which one I'm going to go with. I like this one that's kind of like simulates that website that we're using as a reference all the time. And then, or something more, a little bit more personality like this one. So I have like those two renders, and then obviously the hair is just like, it's a mess. Looks like a helmet right now. So there's a lot of grooming involved, and probably the next couple of days I'm gonna be spending just in the grooming, and trying to get the hair with some more personality. He had some curls in the back and things like that. So I'm gonna be going over that stuff. And another thing I did here was actually do a little peach fuzz on the clothing. So I just add some more, it's like to look a little bit more natural, so you can see it's a little bit peach fuzz in there. You see, like XGen is very buggy for a lot of things, right? Like for sculpting with the guides especially, and for the density brush. But for a lot of other stuff, like for adding like fur like that, it's not heavy at all. You can just add a fur into the whole thing, it's like it doesn't drag that much. And like for peach fuzz, for stubble, all this stuff, like the simplest stuff. If you don't want to suffer too much with XGen, I would start with things like that. I start with the easy stuff like the peach fuzz, the fuzz for the clothing, the hair for the nose, things that we are not going to use like any curves, right? And things that you pretty sure like you're not going to use any type of density painting to do anything, right? Even the eyebrows here, you see like he has like very little hairs in the eyebrows. So most of this was sculpted by hand, right? I started with the curves just to show you guys how I would approach like a regular, you know, young kind of eyebrows. But then in his case here, I removed a lot of that stuff. I show you how I added up like the sculpting layers on top of each other. And then how I shrank a couple of those into like basically like until some of them became like peach fuzz only, right? Like very tiny. And then, but at the end of the day, those guys here is sculpted by hand, right? Like by just selecting and freezing just one at a time and just sculpting it into a curve, then unfreezing, freezing another one, and it was like, and he's sculpting inside of the frozen area. So all those things, I mean, like for the model Rick Baker, for example, I barely used any curves. Like even for the long hair, a lot of that was sculpted with traditional, just like comb brush, right? So it's possible to do it. It's not optimal, and it's going to take some time. And but we are talking about stills here. We're not talking about like doing something for animation, right? But you have to be more concerned about certain things. Here, if it works visually, you can do anything you want. You know, it's just like you can freeze certain areas and then pull it. You can create clumps by hand, right? So basically, like you select a bundle of hairs and just like freeze just that little bundle, and then sculpt just that bundle into into any shape you want, actually. You know. So you can do that kind of stuff. So my main goal next is going to be like to do the hair stuff. And his hair is kind of interesting because he has less volume in here, so I'm going to have to reduce the volume. But he has a ton of flyaways. So just like his crazy eyebrows, he has some crazy hair stuff as well going on. Let's see if I can find one here. For example, like this guy. Let's see. Look at the amount of flyaways he has in there. Of course, it's not always like that, right? But yeah, there's a lot of flyaways going on in there, so I'm gonna have to do something similar just to add some more natural feel to it. And also that thing that I mentioned before, you know, it's like because I'm so afraid of using the density brush to eliminate some of the hair in here, I have two options actually. So let's spin around it to show you. So this guy. So either I can use like some additional curves really around here, in this entire area where I want a little bit shorter, right? And just make those curves very tiny, like super short. So basically, like the hair is going to behave that way. It's going to interpolate and create like very short hair in there. And then I can use a little pass there just to transform them into peach fuzz, right? Like just make everything super thin. Or I can go straight away here and I can set my brush, for example, like the minimum and maximum length to the same thing, which is like 0.01, I think is the minimum it can go. It doesn't go to 0. And then just like really with a brush here, with intensity like at 100, just brush this entire area here. And this basically like very fast, they're gonna shrink like into nothing, right? So I can just like shave this entire area here. Or you can actually use the shave brush, right? You can just set the shave to like 0.01 and just come with a shaving machine here, like a vrrr, cut this entire thing, right? And then just again, come with another pass and just transform every single one of them like into a very thin hair. So it kind of disappears into the peach fuzz in there. But optimally, if you want to do this the right way, you know, the density brush, if you've worked, it would be perfect for this. I use this for the other models, for example, Stan Winston. But then you saw the result, right? Like when I opened the file, sometimes some of that's exploded. So I don't like that. But another option would be to basically like copy your model, the head, and then use this one here for rendering the face, but then use the next one just to place the hair, right? And then you would basically use the second, this model here, for example, I would transform into my grooming head, and I would have to actually redo the UVs. So a fast way to do it would be like just go to your modeling, like a UV editor, right? And you can just like say, okay, just lay out the whole thing. So you can just like select everything here, right? And you can just go to modify and you can say layout. And my settings for layout, they are kind of like this right now. So I'm using like preserve 3D ratios. So basically like it scales everything proportionally, right? So it's not like one area is going to be more stretched than the other one. So it preserves the proportions. and then everything inside of the UDIM number 1, right? So if I apply this now, let's apply it. So this is going to change my UVs here into a packed UVs like that into a single island, right? Actually, I have to add some more distance between them. It looks like they're too close together here. But this would be kind of like a UV that would work for painting maps with XGen, you know, because if you have everything in a single UDIM, then it's easier for you to just like paint masks interactively in Maya and just really control everything. You know, it's like you can control masks with the length and everything. But because I'm using everything like sculpting and grooming in the same model, that's how I'm used to do it. I know it's not optimal, but it's just like I have to maintain just one model. So I'm gonna do this kind of cheating, you know, just like remove that, like shave that entire area and just like turn them into peach fuzz. And like I said before, you have the option to actually use the peach fuzz, create like a different shader to cover them, so they're kind of like blondie and a little, you know, it's like kind of translucent. Or you can simply use like color maps, right? In my case here, I'm using a color map to control the entire thing. Every single hair in the face is controlled by the same color map, like I mentioned before. So I can go at any time in ZBrush and just go to those eyebrows and just like pick a couple of them in there, you know, it's like and paint a little different color or like levels of gray or white and or black, right against the root, and I can get like some more variation. But for everything else, for example, if it's peach fuzz, I have everything almost black, right? Like in my map in ZBrush, because I want them to go almost completely blonde. And then you can control how blonde they're gonna go with this control here. Let's see. So if I click my main hair, and you go to the color here, so you have like the melanin redness, right? So this is the redness in here. So you can control how much, you know, it's like if it has like backlight, if it's gonna turn more like yellowish or not, right? So you're gonna get a little bit more of that redness to it. And then there's a randomizing here. If you're working like an older character, right? Like you can randomize the melanin. So it can go like kind of like salt and peppery, kind of like in a random way. And then I'm tweaking a little bit the specular here. So I have like the roughness, I think the default was like 0.200. I'm using 0.100. And I'm actually turning on the anisotropic roughness. It gets a nicer detail in there. And then the index of refraction, I think by default is a little bit higher than this. So I'm bringing down just a little bit, so that it's not too intense, you know. It's like it's a little bit more subtle for the spec. But I mean, like those settings, I keep playing with them, right? I look at different references, and eventually I'm gonna see like, oh, okay, I think I have to go shinier with this, and then I just like tweak some of them in there. So yeah, it's not like everything is like, to me, is just like an exploration, right? So I change from model to model. Like probably like next month I'm gonna be doing some stuff a little differently, and then I experiment with everything. I try to push my models like further and further, and then at some point when I'm ready to do like a gallery with all those characters, then I'm gonna revisit each one of them, and then basically like update all the shaders and everything in the lighting, you know. For example, like go back to Dick Smith, improve the likeness some more. Rick Baker the same. You know, it's like it keep going with this until I have like until I'm happy with the results, and I can do like a nice like little gallery. So that's gonna be my little project next. Yeah, so this is where I am right now, and hopefully by the weekend you're gonna be able to see like not finished because I never finish anything, but at least like a much more advanced version of this guy here. And also the pose, right? Like all my models, they are like completely straight and boring, right? So my intention is to make them alive first, and then if I'm planning to do like a series of portraits, I have to see, for example, like am I gonna comp all of them together, right? Like maybe the one with Dick Smith, Rick Baker, and Ray Harryhausen, you know. In that case, I'm gonna have to study like what's gonna be like the best angles for everything, and then what I can do. And I did this a couple of times for some of my other models. You can always cheat the rotation of the head by doing the opposite, rotating the body, right? So one thing that I do sometimes so I can keep working symmetrically in my model is that I select just the face, for example, and I keep that deselected. and I select the rest of the neck, for example, like with a very soft selection, and then select the neck and the rest of the body, for example, and then I rotate the entire thing. So once you pose it like that, you spin around a little bit, it's gonna look like he's kind of looking to the side, right? Like he has, he's rotating his head, but in fact, what's rotating is actually the body. So I do the opposite, so I can actually keep working symmetrically in the model if I need to do something faster, you know. But at this point here, obviously the model is a little bit on the asymmetrical side now, but I still have some symmetry, for example, in forehead and things like that, that I can still use, you know, it's like ears that I can sculpt still a little bit more symmetrical just to save myself some time. That's the advantage of the digital arts, right? You can actually save some time with that stuff. So yeah, let's leave this one alone for now, and I'm gonna do some sculpting. So we have like some productivity going on today. I'm gonna sculpt the ears because I don't have anything in the ears just now. And then in the second hour, we're gonna be talking about like Hellboy and all that stuff. You know, it's like any model you guys want me to open. If you have the time, I can open those models and show you guys what I have in there, and make the best out of this this class today. So let's see how the neck looks like now. So his neck looked very thin, you know. Like I said, like it's I had to actually compensate for the super tight collar for the shirt, right? So it got a little funny here. He got a little bit bubble head, but it works in the context, you know, with the rest of the sculpture, right? So basically, like everything is fake, right? Like see, like I still have to fix this. This like weird line here. I have to make everything kind of straight, and then the rest of the thing is just like partial as well, right? Like I don't have a lot of stuff in there. It's just like I need it for the portrait itself, and then not for an animation or anything, right? If that was the case, I would have to build things completely. This is also completely sculpted by hand, right? So it's not like it's a precise thing or anything. It's more like a sketch of the clothing. But if you look at the render itself, right, it works nicely in the context. Let's see where. So you know, it's like you get all those little folds in there. It actually reads pretty nicely, you know. Although it's pretty rough in ZBrush, still have to fix some of that stuff. Like there's a dimple in there and right there, but yeah, it's gonna work okay. Okay, so let's go back to this guy. And let's do some sculpting in those ears. Let's keep, let's see. Because that's a couple of things I didn't talk about, right? Like his lips and ears. So why don't we start with maybe lips? Let's try with, start with lips. Because lips are cool too. It's not like this guy is gonna have a ton of detail because he's smiling. And then if you're smiling, you're getting some stretching going on. And then a lot of the wrinkles you normally see, they kind of go away a little bit, right? If there's a little bit too much stretching going on in there. So let's just let's get this. I selected too much stuff. Let's chop the top of the head so we can save some polygons, and the back of it as well. One here. Let's see what we have for the neck. Yeah, we don't need neck for now. So I hope I can sculpt this entire thing. A little creepy the way it is. So let's just get those eye bags as well, just for creepiness sake. Yeah, I can get the whole thing. I'm not sure. Also, the lips are gonna need those guys. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's see how much I can get from here. If I cannot get the entire thing, maybe I can just switch to, yeah, maybe I'm not gonna get, because the ears are kind of heavy. Yeah, you chopped a little piece of the head, the ears. Let me just get rid of some other areas here. Trying to push ZBrush. It has like 35,000 million polygons right now. So let's try to push it, but remove an area like this, for example. And then maybe something like this. See if we can, if you're lucky. That didn't do much, huh? I'm trying doing it with the mouse here, so it's hard to control. Let's see. All right, something like that. A couple more polygons, anything I can use. All right, let's see if I can get the ears. Let's start with maybe here, so I can get the lips, something around there. Yeah, so I got the lips and the ears. Oh, that's good. A little creepy in there, but it's okay. I can turn this one on, and then let's turn everything else off. So I can sculpt both lips and that. So for the lips, normally around this area here, you see like I have all those pores I still have to clean up. They're very close to the lips. So I'm gonna smooth them out first. Let's see, let's start with the, like just the regular smoothing. That's maybe 30 something. And let's go back in resolution a few times, just like maybe once. So it's a little bit, you know, faster to sculpt. And turn off symmetry. There is a, let's see, light box. Let's try the brushes. And then we have our smooth here. And then you have this smooth, strong, I think, stronger, this one. So this one here apparently gives you a nicer, you know, it's smooth, even at high resolution. So it's very strong, right? As the name says. One thing that I did wrong here is actually I'm using the smooth with the RGB on. And I don't want to smooth anything that I have in terms of detail from the color. Just want to smooth the detail, right? The sculpting. So let's turn off that. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. It goes way too strongly actually. So let's do like maybe a 30, something like that. Oh yeah, that's nice. I'm just gonna eliminate some of that. And this entire area, gonna do a little bit more of a blending. Especially here, right? If it's too close to the lips, it looks a little weird. Okay, so now let's start fresh here with our little standard brush. And around the lips area, what you get sometimes is those, not sometimes, like especially with your with the younger characters, right? Like when you're sculpting, you're gonna get those very thin little lines. Let me just get my stroke with lazy mouse. Let's see what I can get here. So maybe a little stronger than that. Yeah, let's try with a little symmetry here. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's okay too. So I'm not at the highest resolution, as you can tell. So it's gonna be just enough for me to add some of that. So I'm gonna go like, I'm kind of like doing like a zigzag kind of thing, but without keeping the mouse on the screen constantly, right? So basically like I lift it every time I go up and every time I go down. Just like to add those little guys like that. And then if I want to go like really precise with them, right? Like I can go to the highest resolution. Let's see at the highest how it looks like. I like when it looks a little bit more subtle. So at the highest, let's see. Okay, so it's gonna look like that. I might actually have to smooth a little bit more here too. Let's do that. I don't want to see any of those little pores here. They're gonna look weird. Just lifted them, but they still have the little stars in there. We don't want that nonsense. Like that. That. Get rid of them, especially in the lips, right? So we don't want anything weird happening there. That's better. Yeah, let's sculpt the little lines in here. I think it's gonna be better anyway. Yeah, something like that. So around this area here, that's basically like the connection between the skin and the lips themselves. you get those tiny little lines sometimes. Not sometimes, but most of the time. And although I'm not seeing like, you know, it's like with the facial expression that he has here, it might be a little different, you know, it's like because they're going to be stretching. I don't think it's going to be a big deal if we just add them anyway. And then as soon as we finish this whole ring, we're going to start like making some of them a little bit larger and longer and trying to blend with the skin area better. Like a little zigzag. And eventually the symmetry here is going to stop working because the model is not symmetric in the lips at all at this point. I'm actually surprised I'm actually, you know, going all the way around, but the symmetry is going to be weird at some point. So I'm just going to get here. And then when I get around here, we break the symmetry. Let's do this manually. It's all about saving time as well, right? We have enough manual work with all this pore stuff, and at some point we have to be a little smart about the way we approach it, otherwise you're gonna go insane. So let's see, around here I can actually start breaking those in the corner, right? More like little zigzags and making more organic. And then I'm gonna go back to that mode of just getting those little guys. And it's basically like everything is, you know, it's like with every single area of the model, you can start with a very thin pattern and then grow and grow until it becomes something bigger, or the opposite, right? Like it's a 3D model, so you can choose what you want to do. You can actually start with the bigger forms, like you would do it like with traditional, and then break it down and down, right? Like keep breaking things down, kind of like a fractal kind of effect. Or you can simply do the opposite. You can start with the little forms, and then you can build them up to become like bigger forms as you go. And I do this constantly. Like I don't follow a rule. You know, it's like those formulas to me. I mean, like to me, it's almost like what's my mood today? You know, it's like sometimes I approach in a certain way, and then sometimes it's in a different way, and the result's going to be very similar at the end. So I kind of like, you know, I don't follow it. I mentioned before, you know, it's like I had this OCD kind of thing that my numbers had to be all precise before I entered them and everything. Everything was too controlled, you know. And as soon as I said, fuck it, I'm going to do the way I want, I stopped paying attention to a lot of the little formulas, you know, it's like and things that just like make you follow those little rules and stuff that someone puts in place, right? Because they study in a certain way and they found optimal to do that way, and then we all just follow without even questioning, right? But you know, sometimes it's just like interesting to just be a rebel and just ignore certain things, not everything, right? Because there's a lot of very important information out there. But you know, just come up with your own way of doing things. You know, it's like if the result is working, why do I have to follow every single rule out there? You know, it's like those self-imposed rules, right? I mentioned this before. I think like academia is very important. You know, it's like I went to college like 5 years for fine arts, but in Brazil it's pretty bad. You know, it's like my college, like we didn't have like great sculptors like teaching or anything. So my sculpting there was basically nothing. So I basically like self-taught with everything when it comes to sculpting. And but I learned a lot about theory, you know, it's like about composition, there's a lot of stuff, you know, it's like even psychology, you know, it's like I love those classes. So that's very important as well for the purpose of like storytelling, you know, it's like if later on you're gonna start actually telling stories with your models, it's very important to get some of that stuff as well. But in terms of you know, what we learned when it comes to sculpting, I mean, like it was basically like nothing. And I was in college for 5 years, and not much. You know, it's not like we have awesome colleges here in the United States either. You know, it's like, but I'm pretty sure in Europe, because people were basically like right in the middle of where everything started, right? Like you got Italy and Spain and all those places, you know, and then you see where all the amazing stuff actually started. And then like every plaza has like an amazing sculpture, a bunch of sculptures in there for you to see, like, and get inspired as you go to work, you know. That's a different type of vibe than what we have here. It's yeah, it's very different.
Can I ask which school did you make in Brazil
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
it
studied?
was the UNB. It's like UNB is the University of Brasilia, which is the capital of in Brazil.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great. I mean, like we had great teachers. I mean, like my teacher, like for drawings, for example, like the Sergio Riso. He was a great teacher. You know, it's like we did a lot of live drawing and stuff like that. Like awesome sessions. But he was kind of like the exception, you know, it's like of the teachers in there. Most of the teachers nowadays, and this is like is across the board to me, seems like they are more concerned about their doing their own thing, like in terms of you know, it's like they don't want to go like and teach like the how to create something and let the creativity be on the hands of the students. For example, like I want to teach you the techniques, right? Like all this stuff I'm teaching you here, you can actually use for whatever you want to do later. You know, it's like if you want to do this with a creature, you can apply this knowledge to a creature. But then in college, I would have like teachers who would say, for example, oh, so our project is to do a sculpture with stockings, like female stockings, you know, like women's stockings. I was like, what the heck? I don't want to do that. That's stupid to me, you know? Just teach me how to sculpt with clay. I want to be happy with that. And then I choose if I later on in life, I just going to do sculpting with whatever the heck I want, what material I'm going to experiment with. But I want to get the basis of everything, you know? And it's kind of like it's a very common thing, you know. It's like the teachers, they have their own thing. You see their personal work, and it's all like kind of like a very conceptual because they don't have like the artistry behind. You know, it's like and then it pisses me off. I mean, like it's this whole thing nowadays that you know, it's like it's with music, with the art in general. You know, it's like it's just this laziness. Everything is like those formulas, and there's nobody trying to break the mold of anything. You know, and then on top of that, like the art that you see in galleries, it's like it's a bunch of rich people doing that as a hobby almost, and getting sponsors to do that. You know, it's like or having like their dads pay for it. But actual art, you know, it's like people doing the cool stuff and the good music and everything. Everything is a little bit more underground, you know, or used for entertainment purposes and not like in galleries. So I think it's our job, you know, it's like to actually try to rescue a little bit of that. You know, it's like there's so much that we can do nowadays with digital art, like to the point that we can transform anything we build here into an actual physical sculpture that people can touch, you know. So yeah, there's so much possibilities, man. Imagine like using the powers of ZBrush for good, you know, because ZBrush is so overused when it comes to alphas and all this stuff, right? You know, it's like people just slap a bunch of alphas on their models and then that's it, right? Just like, oh, done, call it done. And then you see those super complex models at the first glance, right? Like when you look at them, super complex. But then you start looking at the primary forms; they don't quite work well. The model just works from one angle, not the other. But it has all this potential of like amazing amount of detail we can add to those models. But just imagine using that potential to create something that's really remarkable, you know. And I see this happening with some artists nowadays. You know, it's like they are really pushing the envelope when it comes to ZBrush sculpting, but with using like a combination of the academic knowledge, right? Like so, this like the anatomy knowledge and all this stuff, which is very important, but also with a lot of freedom to just like do whatever the heck they want. Kind of like you know, it's like both with the themes they're choosing, and also you know, it's like just like really breaking the mold. And I think I can see like new masters coming up. You know, it's like and gonna be like a different time once those guys are actually you know it's like in charge, and I hope they are in charge at some point. You know, it's like really take down the establishment of mediocre art out there. You know, I mean, like I just look at the Instagram. It's like you get this amazing artists. You know, it's like I follow like 1,000 something artists, and like inspiration every day. You know, and then you go to a freaking gallery, and it's rare to find something actually interesting. You know, of course, depending on the gallery you're gonna go, but I mean, like in general. So it's like it's time for those guys to come out of their, You know, it's like their little rooms in there with a computer, and then go and do some cool stuff. You know, so that can actually inspire other people in there. I think that's a good hope to have. You know, I have this hope. I have a hope that actually I'm gonna have, you know, at some point some of my stuff, you know, printed and actually physical. And the cool thing with Instagram is that you get to know a lot of interesting people, right? And I was contacted with by this person who worked with Rick Baker and with Kazu actually, and he helped them to cast some of their pieces. And he said like if I ever wanted to have like some of my stuff cast, for example, like in silicon, he would help with that. So I'm kind of interested in that. You know, it's like maybe eventually turning some of my portraits into physical pieces. And with a nice 3D print, you know, it's like I think I would be able to capture a lot of the detail as well. But you know, it's like I think the whole objective of this class, more than anything, is to actually try to rescue this. You know, it's like the hard work. You know, it's like instead of like cutting corners like we do in production, because we do this in production all the time. We kind of like go through, you know, it's like okay, we have a deadline and it's super short, and we have to deliver something, and then you cannot like experiment, right? You just have to use the tools you have available and deliver something in as fast as you can and with okay quality, right? Quality is not the main thing these days. Mostly it's like saving money. And then when it comes to your personal work, why not to change that, right? So what about taking the frustrations you have at work, for example, if you know, it's like your supervisor is telling you to do it in a certain way and you know you can do better in a different way, instead of like getting frustrated at work, which is pointless, it's not your work, you're doing the work for someone. Just take that frustration, you know, it's like and just show them in a different way. For example, like do it at work, at home, right? In your own personal time, you do the job, post your stuff, and then sometimes people gonna ask you, you know, it's like at work, you know, it's like, how did you do that? It's like, well, well, I spend my own time and I did the way I thought it would be a better approach, you know. It's like, and sometimes you get compliments at work for the stuff you do at home, you know. People are kind of following you and they're like, man, how'd you do those eyes and stuff? We're kind of struggling here. I was like, oh, well, you can use this and that technique, and then you just hope that people are going to listen to you, but sometimes they don't. But yeah. So just yapping here, guys. It's just a way for myself to distract from paying too much attention to this. So see, like for the lips in here, I'm just like starting to actually merge those little lines I just added with some bigger ones. So I'm just gonna cut them across like that. So we're gonna have like those little lines in there, some other ones. And then you can actually, if you're really concerned about getting the forms correct, you can even use like a clay build up and just get some of those a little bit more, you know, it's like raised. So I'm gonna do this just with the bigger ones. I'm gonna get the clay build up with the low intensity, maybe 3. And I'm gonna get some of those folds to actually raise just slightly. Not a lot because, I mean, it's like a stretched skin, right? Like he's smiling. But at the same time, it's not like a full-on grin. So it's not like there's a complete stretching going on. So there is room to have some of the form maintained. So I'm gonna do that just to add a little bit more of an organic feel to it. And then for the next class, starting Monday, since I'm gonna be sculpting my wife, I think I'm gonna have like much more time spent like in lips, for example. So you guys obviously gonna get access to that class, and then you can watch how I do the lips for her. And then you're probably gonna get a lot of different techniques in the mix, because each character is gonna demand a different thing, right? Oh, that's rare. Saving project file in okay, saving project file in progress. All right. I think I set up my my auto save like every 6 hours or something like that, because the files like in HD they are so big, right? And I just don't want it like to, you know, stop me every couple of minutes to just save those large files. And I know I'm living dangerously here, but yeah, for some reason I think I left ZBrush unattended for too long. Let's see under my preference what's the auto save in here. Quick save after, yeah, 600 minutes. So like, what says 10 hours? Jesus Christ. So yeah, I'm a little messy like that. Let's get this guys here. So yeah, I think like the main thing I want to pass about this class is that yeah, it's very unusual the way I do stuff. If you're coming from a more like a traditional kind of approach, you know, it's like trying to block your primary forms and everything has to be separate and everything follows a little order and everything. That's gonna mess up with your head, right? As already messed up with the head of some of you guys. But it's a process that actually shows results. You know, it's like if you can produce results, I don't think there's anything wrong about like breaking all those rules. You know, for example, if I want to sculpt my primary forms and secondary forms in a bundle, right? I mean, like it's not like a clay sculpture that like actually I have to follow those rules, otherwise I don't get to the next step, right? If you don't get your primary forms in place, how are you going to get like your secondary forms in place, right? Like you have to follow an order because it's a physical thing and you're changing those forms as you go. But as a digital model, you're free to actually break that mold, you know, it's like and actually sculpt primary and secondary together and then go straight to the tertiary, go back to your secondary, go back to your primary at any time. Just doing things carefully, obviously, right? You're not gonna go too crazy about like changing the primary forms like by moving stuff sideways, right? If you're gonna move stuff, either you move like towards the normal direction, or you know, it's like you just like resculpt that area. For example, like if it's too raised, just like and you need that bump to be slightly to the side, just like remove it and resculpt on the side. But you know, just like there's like many ways to do the same thing, I suppose. So here, I mean, like I just broke up some of that, right? Like, so just a little detail. When the subsurface hits this area, if you have a close-up shot, it really shows. I might do a little bit of pores here, and then before I move to the ears, let's do it here. Actually, I cannot spend too much time on that because I have to go to Hellboy soon, right? Because Omid actually asked me to do some work with it, so I'm gonna be showing that. But yeah, so I'm just gonna add some more of those pores in here just to get some more variation. Some of them are gonna be bigger. That's too big. The important thing is like since the beginning I mentioned like the thing about the pores is like they follow a certain pattern, right? You can actually I described it by painting those little diamond shapes in between them, but at the same time it's not like a constant, right? Like the pattern is not perfect. It's not like you get perfect diamonds every time. So at any time if you can actually just like instead of like putting like in a perfect diamond pattern, just like one of them you just push a little bit more to the side, and then maybe a couple of them you make much deeper than the other ones, right? And just to make sure that the skin is going to read as something a little bit more organic, right? See the way I have in here, like there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes like to the distance between them, and then how they are breaking up, how I'm sculpting the wrinkles by connecting some of those little dots in there, right? So anything to break those patterns. Here, for example, the muzzle, I still see a couple of patterns in there, you know. So it's an area that I'm probably going to add like some more, like some deeper pores in certain areas, add some bumps and things like that. You have to avoid that feel of like everything looks a little bit mechanical, right? That's the main thing. So this area here now I got the little too smooth, so I can just add a few pores from time to time. And then especially in this area here that I mentioned before, because I want to see when the lighting hits it, I can actually see some of those pores. And to help with the basically like the blending between those two areas, probably going to smooth out this area here a little bit as well later on. But let's move to the ears in here. This pattern I did in there, for example, like those little tiny lines, I would repeat at the top as well. So I'm going to do that the same, the top, and then also doing the same stuff, you know, kind of like coming like with bigger lines, longer, that start a little bit higher like that. And then just digging in to the lips. So I'm going to be doing that. And then on top of that, they're going to come with those tiny little ones like that. Do a little bit of that right here. So from time to time, just grab one of them and make it longer, right? Just go the little lines in there. It helps with this little connection between what's skin and what's not. Because like I said before, you have to imagine like in real life what's going on here. It's the skin going from something that's a little rougher to something that's very, very like paper thin, right? So all those areas, they have like transitions.
Hey Chris, do you have some, sorry to interrupt you, but do you have some websites with a large resolution files with the pictures with expression?
But
Like a smile or crying or scream?
Not that I remember. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, if I find one, I can post, but with expressions, I really don't. I wish they had one like that.
Okay.
That would be very helpful, actually.
Okay, thanks.
And then, so let's move to the ears in here. See what we can get. So for the ears, normally how I approach it, I'm going to use a very cheap brush, which is going to be that, let's see if it's here somewhere. Skin random pores, no. So it's not there. So stretch, skin random, this one, right? That little one is going to be the one I'm going to be using for the ears first, just to add some texturing, because I don't want it to look super shiny, right? Like when you render it, if it's too smooth like that, you're going to get super shiny in the renders, and I want a little bit more opaque and less specky. So I'm going to be doing the similar pattern I have in here. See, like I still have to blend this entire area. It's going to be a lot of work in there. But so I'm going to go and do that little pattern in here, like in circular motion like that. And then I'm going to start blending a little bit, like with the smooth, just to break up like the super smooth surface. And then nothing is a single pass, right? Everything has to come in like different little passes. So you do one pass with the entire skin, for example, then you come and smooth out this area inside, then you come and add some pores inside, and then some bumps, some wrinkles, especially around the lobe. So all those things like a little passes. Anything you can do to actually break up the, the plasticky feel. I'm just gonna add this little texture in here. It really helps, because once it's the kind of texture that's a good filler, It's like if you don't have a lot of stuff going on in a certain area, if you just have that little texture, for example, this is the texture I use for the top of the nose, right? It really helps. So let's go a little bit stronger here. I'm going to smooth it out around here, and then I'm going to start smoothing out inside as well. Just to have that little pattern that's a little bit noisy, right? But it's kind of like an organic kind of noisy. So not too bad. So you see, now we start to make like different types of, a different feeling for each one of those parts. So around here, let's add some more. Always in circles. And again, for example, if now I realize that my ear, structure-wise, is still not working very well, I can go back in resolution a couple of times, right? And nothing stops me from actually resculpting the primary forms of my ear. It's the term primary, secondary, and tertiary to me, they are kind of like they totally make sense, because I mean, like you're going from the rougher forms to the smaller forms, right? Like going down and down, but they're kind of relative too, right? For example, what's like primary, secondary, and tertiary forms when it comes to, for example, like an eye bag. It's like an eye bag is it's almost like you're treating like as a creature itself, right? It's almost like the eye bag has its own set of like its own structure, right? So if you look at the context of the entire body, maybe some areas that are considered like secondary forms, if you look close, maybe those are the primary forms in that context, right? Of that little chunk of forms in there. Same with the ear here. Maybe some of this stuff was secondary forms, looking from afar. But then when I look at like close like this, to me those are like pretty much like primary forms, and the secondary form is going to be even smaller. So it's kind of like almost like there's a little context, right, of depending on the scale you're working on. Imagine like if you go more and more microscopic with everything, right? At some point, if you're sculpting like a cell, right, like that cell is going to have its own set of like primary, secondary, and tertiary forms within that context. But if you look like from afar, that's basically like you don't even see it, right? It's so tertiary you cannot see it. Yeah, to me, it's like, it's interesting. Every time you get closer, you get a little different view of the entire thing. So let's get to our single pore, or Singapore, like you guys are saying, Singapore. And then I'm gonna add some of those pores around, like inside here. Maybe not too strong. Let's see, like 20 is a good number. And actually what I can do with them, instead of like doing this, to have like this exact like little star shapes, right? Because they look a little artificial if you have those star shapes reading too much. So let's go to resolution lower, or maybe 2. Let's see, maybe 2 resolutions. And then let's sculpt them a little stronger, but then with less resolution. So let's try that. Especially those areas here, right? I'm gonna get them to break up the speck when the specular gets in there. Can barely see them in here because the resolution is so low. But that's kind of the effect I want to do. I want to create. It's a little bit more of like a subtle little holes. And then if I need to actually increase the detail in each one of them, I can just like sculpt it again, like pick a couple of them and just like sculpt with in a higher resolution. But at this point here, that's kind of like the effect I'm going for. It's going to depend on your geometry as well, right? Like your topology. If you have more polygons in there, obviously you're going to get much more detail, even in a lower resolution. But in my case here, that's kind of like where I am at. Yeah, just a little texture in there just to help. And let's go up again. Maybe a couple here. Let's go up again. And then it should be very subtle. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, something like that should help. So let's add in some more of the skin random, but just like a little bit more of directional now around this area. A little bit more direction here. And if you're going like in an exact direction like that, completely vertical in this case, you can actually go slightly to the side the next time. So you create a little bit of a pattern, but without being like a checker, you know, so it's just more like a skin kind of pattern in there. Then obviously going to be merging with whatever I have in here later. So I'm going to have to smooth out this area and just go for it. And now let's do a little sculpting here again. Let's get those lines to read a little bit nicer. Let's see if I have any reference of him like from the profile here, because a lot of stuff, as you can tell, I just go for it without even looking, and would be good, right? To look at reference from time to time, since we're trying to sculpt something realistic. But like I said, like I take a lot of freedom, you know. It's like I kind of exercise whatever I have stored in my head and just like go for it, and hope for the best. That's why I mean, like it's kind of like there's no way to compare my work to the work of someone doing something much more realistic, you know, someone using a scan, for example, or you know, it's like all the texturing X, Y, Z and all that stuff, you know. There's a lot of people going to be able to do much more realistic stuff than I do, but it's you know, that's my own thing, you know, kind of like do it the way I feel like it's more artistic, you know. I want to be able to sculpt something that has my style in it, and I think that's a very important part of being an artist, you know. It's like it's having your own style, your own way of doing things. Everything is very deliberate, right? Like you have like different tastes for food, you have taste for music and all this stuff, and you have taste for the way you see the forms as well, right? So sometimes you see a form in a certain way, but like on purpose you kind of like, you know what, I kind of like I would like to do it this way, and then you take some freedoms, you know. It's like to sculpt things in a certain way, even though they are not like exactly what you're seeing, you know. It's like kind of like over time you kind of refine this internal library you have in your head, and then a lot of stuff is like very deliberate, right? You kind of like you just like start like doing things that make sense to you, and you're gonna see like certain artists the way that they sculpt wrinkles and things like that. They're very particular, and some amazing stuff out there. You know, it's like you see, you know, the way that they pick like certain forms. You know, like it's very interesting, and you can see the style of the artist just by looking at the way he sculpts the wrinkles and things like that, right? And same goes to likeness. You know, there you can tell straight away who is actually using a scan and who is actually trying to reimagine what he is seeing or she is seeing, right? And I think that's a great thing, that you can actually preserve your style, you know, as you do your own art. And I think like this is another main point of this class, you know. It's like do stuff manually, because if you make things too sterile by using like ready-made things, right? For example, like you're gonna reapply the same type of pores for every single character, right? Like you know, it's like in terms of like the same distance, same character, same everything, because it's coming from the same source. And then if you have something like this, right? I started with the strong pores, but then I went like much thinner with them, and then certain areas I can make a little bit stronger, a little bit more shallow, and you know, it's like all those things are very freeing, you know. It's like because you can actually experiment with it, really have fun with things, instead of just like trying to nail it for the purpose of looking perfect, but without like adding your style to anything, you know. I think that's a good good message. Adding a little bit more of those guys here. And yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit this little I don't even remember like how this one is called, this little you guys are free to ask questions. We are right on time, and then I'm gonna be moving on to talk about the Hellboy, because I think that's the important thing about Hellboy is that it's a full body HD model. That's why Omid actually brought it up, because he's sculpting a full body character and he wants to know about the HD geometry, because we are doing just the head here, and so far is good, right? It's working fine for us. But what happens when you have like a full body with the HD geometry? So that's why we're gonna be exploring a little bit of that next. But I'm actually glad that I did a little bit of work on the ears, and you know, because this stuff I'm gonna be doing in the next couple of days, and anything I can check out of my list is a good day, you know. This is another thing I want to tell you guys. It's a lot of work involved, right? Like as you can tell, I mean, like everything, it's a lot of work because we are doing most of the stuff manually, and it can get very overwhelming because there's so many steps. But try to keep working. You know, it's like it's important to keep working. Important the discipline, right? the thing that happens sometimes is that people keep waiting for inspiration, right? Like, so you stop doing your work because you're waiting for some kind of divine inspiration that never comes sometimes, you know. Spend like weeks sometimes wondering about, you know, it's like if I should not, instead of like simply sitting your butt and doing it. And I think that's how I approach my work. I have like long days at the studio sometimes. I'm not going to say long days. It's just like intense days. Sometimes it's intense. But my days are pretty much like 9 hours in the studio. I don't work that much like overtime. But then when I get home, sometimes I'm completely wiped, especially after bad traffic. I get home like very wiped. But I force myself to do the work. And the way I force myself to do the work is basically like I keep myself busy, but not like if it's one of those days that it's very crazy for me and I'm completely wiped at the end of the day, I look at my list of things to do for a model like this, right? And then there's so many things involved. You're gonna get like, you have the textures that you have to do, painting the textures, you have to sculpt the, you know, it's like if you're doing it from scratch, not in my case anymore because I already sculpted the iris, right? And then you have the hair you have to do, and then you have the teeth you have to sculpt, and all those things, you know, it's like the clothing you have to put on. So many things involved. So you basically like, if it's a day you're completely wiped, you just check that list and you see like, what's the easiest stuff today? Something that's not going to consume many of my neurons, right? And you're just going to say, okay, I think I can do a little, you know, it's like the UV looks a little bit screwed up here. Just going to go in and do a little unfolding in this specific area here. Or something like, okay, I'm tired, but I think I can paint this eye bag today, like a small area, you know. As long as you keep yourself busy, so the work never stops, you know. It's like you kind of keep moving on with it. That's how I approach my stuff. If it's a day I'm a little bit more rested, I'm going to go through a very long session of sculpting, for example, right? Like the wrinkles and the pores and all this stuff. I might, basically like in the weekend, maybe like spend 6 to 7 hours sculpting just wrinkles and pores, right? And get this stuff done. But then in certain other days, like work days that I'm tired, and then there's the class, right, that I cannot do a lot of sculpting during the class, then I'm just gonna do like after the class, maybe the easy stuff, just to get some stuff out of the way, you know. So I think it's a good idea for you guys to do the same. Keep moving every time, constantly. So I just saved this one. Let's open Hellboy here. Let's see, let's explore that model. I hope I saved, right? I just saved, but just double check I don't have. So 1031. Okay, I guess I just saved. So let's open Hellboy. I have Hellboy and Hellboy Toon. It's the two versions. This model here, the anatomy, by the way, looks like crap right now. I have to go through it. So I don't even know how it looks like. It's been a while since I opened it. But you see like 235 million polygons right now. That's how much the HD is consuming for it. Just a second, coming up. Let's see how many subtools I have. I think like, just the body, I think, is consuming most of the HD stuff. I don't have like multiple subtools with HD, I don't believe. Let's see. Oh, there's another one, look. There's a second model with 30 million polygons HD as well. So the first one, so both combined is about 260 million already, plus anything else that's not HD. Let's see, seeing how many polygons we're gonna have it at the end. Oh, he has a very tiny pee-pee. It's because I'm trying to tuck in the pants right there. Bloop. Anyway, so this is the, okay, let's see. Let's subdivide here. So you see like the body itself, I don't have a ton of detail, right? It's just like, it's pretty flat. And I don't have like hands sculpted or anything. It's just like very blocked. But so right now, so let's look at the what's HD in here, which is the face, right? So I think by experimenting here, what I tried to do was to actually have to transfer the detail from one of the previous models to this model here. So what I did, I actually did a match in the face to basically like match the same topology I had for my other models. But then I actually reprojected everything to here and then added the rest of the body. And then basically like I had the body and then reprojected. You know what I mean? You know, just like subdivide entire mesh in HD and then projected just the face. So I got all the detail from the previous model. So let's see what we have. It should be pretty bad because it was reprojected. Yeah, not pretty bad. I mean, like I think I did some cleanup here. Let's go to HD in the face. Let's see what we get. So let's hide this stuff and go to the highest level. Let's see if I have polygroups. Not here, but I should actually. Let's see. Polygroups auto with UV. Okay. So yeah, this is going to be easy now to select. Not with this one. You realize this one, right? Like if you press Control and Shift and you have like your selection, if you have this lasso in here, it actually selects edge loops, right? So you just click this one, it selects those entire loops. But sometimes it's annoying because you want to select just the entire area, so you have to click Control Shift again and then click the square, and then it goes and selects just the entire area. But it's cool. I mean, like if you can, the times you need to select just loops, it's cool to have it available. Let's do this, then that one, this one, this one, this one, and yeah, so this is just the head, maybe the neck as well. Let's go HD on this guy. Okay, so now let's see, this is HD, and this is basically what's transferred from a previous model. I don't remember which one, and then I just like cranked a lot of the detail in here. But yeah, it's not like, you see that the lips have this a similar detail that I was mentioning before, like the little guys in there, and then just cutting into bigger forms. And there is even a problem here with the projection. Look at that, I never fixed it. So I forgot to project that area, so I'm gonna have to sculpt it by hand. But yeah, I think like this one here is a good example. So this entire chunk here of the head, I got like 43 million polygons to sculpt. But the total points for the entire scene is almost 300 million polygons, right? So let's look at the number of polygons we have in the lowest res. So you see I can get pore detail in that area, right? And if you plan your model, like Omid, I think he planned his model very well, so he has more topology in his hands and face. But look at my model here. If you look at the lowest resolution, see like how much bigger the polygons are around this area, right? And then in comparison to the face itself, that you get like much more dense polygons in there. The ears are cleaner than what I had before, maybe a little too clean. Like this area here got a little too clean. I could have the extra row of edges in there just to help out. But you know, it's like the rest of the body is very clean. Oh, look at the PP. PP has a lot of topology. I can put some pores in the PP. And then the hands again. I mean, you have like smaller polygons again, right? So if you go to the hands, let's do a test here. Let's see how many polygons we can get sculpting just the hands. Let's try that, and then symmetry off. Oops, this guy. Well, let's try to go high here because it's a very simple model. But just like add some pores in here and see what we get. Try, let's see our little Singapore. Let's try Singapore. Yeah, there you go. See, like this is an entire mesh, right? Like, so Omid, go to town, man. You're gonna be able to do it. So yeah, just make sure that you subdivide, like not in a crazy way, right? Like you're not gonna pass like, let's say like establish like 200, 250 million as a maximum for your model. I think we did the calculation before. I think you're gonna get something similar like that. But yeah, you're gonna be able to sculpt like super tiny stuff if you have enough topology in the hands, you know. And then obviously for the rest of the body, you're gonna have to find out like what's the best approach. If you're gonna use something like that little array of pores, let's see, multi-pores, something like that, right? If you're going to be using something more like that instead, and then like just filling up the gaps. Like I said before, I mean, like if I'm sculpting with this, I kind of like grow the size of my brush until I get to a size that's very similar to that, right? So basically like the red area here, it's the same size. So I know that if I sculpt around here, I can grow all the way to that, to close to that edge, and you're gonna have a similar kind of distribution, right? So if I do something like that, then now I just have to complete like the in-betweens. So if I get, let's see, I just have to find out now what's the depth of each one of them, right? If it's gonna be too different, that's not gonna work. But around here, I think it's pretty similar. Let's try, like just complete some of those. It's another way to cheat your way to, you know, it's like to sculpt a lot of stuff without having to do it everything manually. You see, just like pick some areas and just like complete the little holes in between. I'm kind of like making very roughly here, so it's not going to have a perfect distribution, but if you do carefully, you can get like a very nice transition between them. Especially this one here. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, something like that, you know? So you can get like a, you're gonna see from a distance, you're gonna be able to actually cheat your way, but doing that way. So yeah, so this is just an example of, oh, yeah, that's gonna work. The strong actually is really good. But anyway, I'm not gonna save this file here. So that's basically it. Do you have any questions, Omid, about this, about the resolution?
Hello, man.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a few questions.
Yes.
One of my questions was about the different wrinkles and skin pores from other parts of body, other part of body, because we didn't talk about skin pore for body.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't we didn't want to talk about that because we were talking about portrait.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to know, you go to town, as you said, and observing details and trying to reproduce it in ZBrush, or you have any documentation for body or any website that helps us to find out how the skin pores on body works,
Mm-hmm.
or this kind of reference. Do you have any?
Yeah, well, I don't actually, but what we have, I mean, like my professional work, right? Like when we had to do the Hulk, so I basically like did the whole detail for the Hulk for the first Avengers, and
Yes.
And that one, I mean, like we had a lot of stuff. Like we have an arm that actually came from Mark Ruffalo, so it's like a cast of his own arm. So he had the arm in hand, so we were able to get some of the detail from there, and a bunch of like light stage stuff too. You know, it's like we got a hand that was light stage, and a way that I found to actually create alphas from the actual skin was to actually, for example, like if I have something like this, and this, let's pretend this is actually a skin, right? And then I had something like this, for example, like a little square of this area here. So basically what I did, I got the scans we had. Let me see. I don't know if I can talk about this. I think I already talked about this a little bit publicly, so I don't think it's a problem. But basically like this, I got like, for example, from the scan, I sample like a tiny little area like that. And then what I did, I actually got like from the side, and let's see if I can do it here. Turn off this guy. And then this one. So from here, I would basically like just like do something like this and rotate it. And I think I don't remember if I deleted the rest of the stuff, but I would rotate like that. And then I would just like completely flatten it. So I would do something like this. And then once I went to the highest level, now that I have this flat surface in there, I would get an actual, you know, it's like a full resolution of that little square. And then I would capture that as an alpha.
But can you talk a bit about if honestly, I want to know if the skin pores from body
they're different. Yeah, they're different, like in character, right? For example, like this kind of stuff I was showing is like the way I sample like from different parts of the scan. But at the end, what I was trying to say is like I had this little library of a bunch of different alphas for different parts of the body. So like in some of them, we didn't have a way to capture from the scans or light stage. So we used like photographs and then just like kind of like cleverly, you know, transformed into bumps. Bump maps and then converted everything. But for example, like the back, we got like this model where he was like a strong dude, and his back, for example, you could see the pores. They don't have the same kind of structure. You know, they look a little bit more spread out. And but I mean, like I think the best approach would be if, for example, like if you have access to a model, for example, right? Like someone you're doing like in a drawing class. And if the person agreed, for example, for you to take some macro photography of different parts of the body, for example, like I would say like the skin in the back would be a good one, the skin in the chest. Sometimes the chest, for example, I try to add some like bumps because of the chest hair and everything. So sometimes I sculpt a little bit more like a kind of like a skin, chicken skin, a little bit, kind of similar to what you have in the neck, just less intense than that. And then as you go more towards the belly, sometimes you get those tiny little micro striations, you know, it's like this tiny little lines that go across horizontally. And then they become a little bit bigger, right? Like with the wrinkles, because of the, you know, when you bend your body, right, you create those wrinkles around your in between the muscles in there. But I mean, like it's very different. I mean, like when you start looking, I see like, for example, the belly, I don't see a lot of the pores themselves, right? Like I see more of those little micro striations like that. And then it's a matter of like really going and looking for reference, like especially macro photography, you know. For Hellboy in here, as you can tell, I mean, I just sculpted the face so far, and most of it came from another model anyway. But the process here, the natural process would be for me to actually do some research about, okay, so how I'm going to be approaching the other areas, right? And I have in my mind that I'm going to need like a different type of character for the pores for the chest, and combined with like some of the bumpness that I mentioned. And then I'm going to have like a different type of like more like micro striations and things like that for the belly, you know. And you know, there's the penis skin. No, I'm not going to be sculpting the penis, man. But and then you know, so for the back, the same thing, you know, it's like a different type of pores for the back. But at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to be able to mix and match with a lot of those, you know, like doing different passes. For the arms, if I remember correctly, let's see, do I have anything online? Like I would say, like, just take a look, you know, if you can look for, let's try here.
Can I say something,
Yeah.
Chris? Have the website here that I have the pleasure to use like a searching in the past, and have a free models, free cool. 3D SK. I will share on the chat here. Just in case if the guys wanted to see some different kind of pores, wrinkles, or the different kind of.
This
I
website,
think this is very good.
Yeah, this website, like, it's super old, right? Like, and I used to sign. What I did actually, there was one time I got a super fast connection, like my internet. I signed up for the fastest I could for 1 month. And then I signed up for this website for 1 month. And then during that month, I actually downloaded a load of stuff from this website.
Yeah, exactly. I did too.
Yeah.
That's why this helped me before to make some creatures, and I can share the things with the guys if the guys wanted to see the stupid model that I did.
Yeah.
It's not in comparison with your stuff, but I can share just in case if the guys wanted to use as a reference.
Of course,
because the chest have the nipples that I use like creating my own stuff, my my alphas, and I think I grabbed some different kind of pores too for the
Uh-huh.
arms and the back.
Yeah. So check this out. Like this is my little library here from 3DSK. Look, 3DSK photo stock. So I have
Oh,
all
you
those.
have everything.
So this is when I downloaded a lot, but this is like, look at the dates. Actually, this is like the date looks recent because this is like, it's the backup date actually. But this is very old. Like when I downloaded it was very old. So let's look at let's see one of those guys. The thing about those is that, you know, they photograph everything, right? So you get like, if you want to try to study like vagina, vagina skin, it's like they take
Yeah, man. But I
close up.
think sometimes the guys have the clothes for the homeless
Oh
vagina.
man, dude, it's like right on there, everything. So it's
Hey,
like,
I
I mean,
have this stuff.
yeah. And then it's same for the dudes. I mean, like you're gonna have like you know, dick pics everywhere. But the thing is like we are artists here, right? So we don't care about those things. We are like everything we see is with an artistic eye. BS. Um,
We laugh at everything.
yeah, exactly. But look at this guy here, for example, right? So look at this skin. There's a lot of stretching, obviously, because he's like lifting his arms and all. But you know, it's like you can get like a lot of clues from this kind of stuff. You can see the pores are right here, right? But then there's a lot of stretching going on. And then it's gonna be the same like for all those different characters. I think that's a good tip, man. I forgot I even had all those pictures around. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. Yeah, so like it's a little creepy sometimes. You get some weird dudes in there, and a lot of those guys, I think they're kind of like homeless, to tell you the truth, you know, because some of them you get to see like their faces and teeth, and it's awful, man. It's like people who just don't they don't take care of themselves, you know. It's almost like they got some hobo and just like offer a couple of bucks and just like, oh, can you come and do a photo shoot? It's like, sure, and then they just come, you know. But those ones that they're not that great resolution here. I think some of them are better resolution, especially the new
If I don't
ones.
have a success like a 3D artist, I know how to make some money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you guys if you cannot get in the industry, you can only sell your body for science. Yeah, I bet like those new ones, for example, they are probably much better because I mean, like the cameras advanced a lot. And when I downloaded all my stuff was like years ago. I would say like 8 years ago, maybe more than that, like 8 to 10 years ago. So probably like the cameras now they are using are much better, so I can get like super high resolution detail. So yeah, Omid, I think that's a good tip. You know, it's like I think you should go to this website and take a look. You know, what Fabrizio said.
Yeah, yes, same as you. I completely forgot. I have a big collection of 3DSK.
Yeah,
Uh, it's good to always go back in
yeah.
time.
And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, especially now, right? Like, I mean, like they have the subscription in here. Let's say, oh, now it's by credits. What does that mean? Let's say 2 weeks. Oh, okay, 40 credits, 2 week premium content. Pay on. Okay, that's a good one. Get a fast internet connection if you don't have one right now. Sign for a month, and then sign to this website for a month, and then download everything you can. Yeah, that's a good tip. Thanks, Fabrizio.
You're welcome.
Awesome, man. So let's see. It's like 10:55 right now. We have time to talk about stuff. We have time to actually go over different models if you want me to open some other stuff. Yeah, the floor is yours, guys. I mean, like if you have any stuff lingering that you didn't quite understand in the past, you know, it's like in the past couple of weeks, you're free to just ask, and I try to help us the best I can, you know.
Grace,
Yes.
could you show us the shader of the tongue, if you can?
Oh, yeah, the tongue. That's right. Let's do it. Oh, let me show you let's open here. I think it's a good idea to actually open the model just to show what the tongue is. So I have teeth here. It should be all together, I think. Let's see. Oh, interesting. I thought I saved in there. But I should have in the model itself. So let's go over my ray. ZBrush. This guy. So the anatomy for this guy was kind of stylized, right? And the cool thing about it is that I have this at home now, which is crazy.
Yeah. By the way, anytime during the class, if anyone didn't have any question, can you please share us the color map on this Hellboy
The
or
color
the
map
shader
for what?
for the Hellboy?
For the
I
Hellboy.
want to know how you do the single, or for example, the red skin.
Oh man, it's challenging, right? Like it's hard to get it right. I think what
Yeah.
what I had was like a very simple red color that I just like shift. Let's open it. Let's see. First, let's go to the tongue stuff so I don't lose track here. But and then next we can do that. But let's see the tongue first. So I have it here, and the model looks like this. It's very simple at this point. I just added mostly like texture and stuff, but it's not like I didn't refine anything. So let's take a look. So it has a lot of bumpiness and everything. What I did to create this little effect in there was to actually use the inflate brush. So I started this whole thing with, you see, like even underneath is completely bumpy. I have to smooth it out if I want to make it like a decent tongue, right? And sculpt the webbing and all that stuff. But for now, everything is, you know, it's like I only see the top part when I have in the portraits. So that's why I keep this way. But basically, I started with the noise, surface noise in ZBrush, and then you create all this noise, right? And then I just used this deformation, and then I used like the inflate. I think it was the balloon or the inflate. I don't remember. And then you create a bunch of those little, you know, it's like kind of like almost like a brain texture in there. Some of them I actually went a little overboard. There are little cracks in there. And then I picked a couple of them and I kind of like overinflated a few of them to add those little guys, especially like around the edge right here. So it's sculpted like this, right? So the shader, let's see how it looks like. I think it's one of those models that I still have to improve. The shader is not like quite there. So let's see. Oh, I don't think I have it in this model. I'm gonna have to open Stan. So let's make sure that I have the scene saved first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like still needs a lot of love, this model, but I'm actually starting to get a little happier now with the way it looks with the clothing. I think it's gonna look cool once everything, all the pieces are together. Let's see. Definitely have to shave the top of his head. Go, Maya. There you go. All right, so let's open Stan again. And then when you open, you're gonna have those crazy eyebrows, which is always funny to watch. Stan Winston. ZBrush. No, not ZBrush, dude. Tripping. I have to do some cleaning my scenes, man. I have so much stuff saved, and at the end of the day, you know, it's like the hard drive just goes away, right? Like it's such a like those files are so big, most of them, especially the ZBrush stuff. And now with this little cloud thing that I have, like this mirror to the cloud, it's like it ends up like being like super heavy, right? And it goes. I have like 2 terabytes. And then I bought an additional 2 terabytes. So I have 4 terabytes in the cloud, and it's almost completely gone. So from time to time, I have to go there and delete a bunch of things. So let's see. Let's just resolve this because it bothers me visually. Just gonna resolve that stuff. So Peach Fuzz and just rebuild it. That's very quickly here. So I don't have to look at his crazy face. And then the eyebrows. And which one is that? The goatee. Okay, a little bit more normal. So let's look at the tongue stuff. Let's hide everything here. Actually, I don't need this stuff. And then it looks so funny without anything, huh? Let's hide this, and then let's hide the hardware. And actually, yeah, let's hide everything. Let's just keep the teeth. Pretty nice. Eyes are cool to have like that. Looks creepy. So let's see. Let's do a little render. As I'm pretty sure I still need to do some work in the tongue, but I have an idea. And then once we see the render and how it looks like, then I can open the shader. But yeah, I want to see because I want to do some more work. The next character, if he has a visible tongue, I'm going to have to actually improve that. Take a look. I can hear my processor is starting to work in there. Oh, by the way, while we are waiting this, check this thing out. So if you go to eBay, it's mostly like for people who live in the United States, I guess. But if you go to eBay and if you look for a machine like this, for example, like Z620, this is the machine I have, okay? If you're curious about the machine I use. So Z620, and then you can do like a 16 core, and then 96 gigabytes RAM. So this is the machine I bought, okay? And you're gonna find a bunch of different ones, like refurbished. So let's see. This one is a little expensive, but you can find refurbished machines like that for about like 1,200 to 1,400. Let's see, 4K. Those ones, those are very similar to the one I have. It's the same graphics card, but I think they're more expensive than what I have. I bought last year, and it was about $1,200 I paid, but with actually it was like $1,050 for the machine refurbished, but then plus $300 for the GTX 1070.
They are not compact, right? We can change the graphic cards later, right?
Yeah, you can change it.
Yeah, awesome.
So for example, let's see this one here. It's very similar to the one I bought. So check this thing out, for example. If you go to eBay, so this guy here is the same machine I have. So it's like 16 core, blah, 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 with 96 gigs of RAM. And has a small SSD. In my case, it came with two terabytes, but like regular hard drives. So like not the SSD. And with Windows 10, you can buy this machine for $1,300, and it's a beast, you know. It's for the price you pay, it's really, really good. So let's just say the speed. Oh, the speed is actually the one I got is faster than this. So my processor is probably a little bit better. My speed is like 2.97 per processor. So it has like 32 threads, 16 cores. So it's 8 cores per processor, and it's like you see like $1,300, man. Like I said, last year when I bought it, was like $1,050 because they are asking, I think, like $1,200 like this, and I sent an offer for $1,000, and they put like, okay, let's do for $1,050. I was like, okay, sure. So I got it. So it's pretty scratched on the sides and everything, but it's solid, man. I mean, like it's like it's under my desk. I never see it anyway, and you can see that it was actually in production. You know, it's like someone was actually using quite a lot. But let me just like turn off my depth of field in here. But it's a great machine to have, you know. It's like it's the most stable machine I ever had. Rarely crashes unless it's like, you know, something very funky like the Maya bugs that affect everybody. But for regular stuff, I mean, like it's an amazing machine, and I keep it on like maybe like 12/7 for most of the year, and it's been running like for a year and a half right now, and it's like solid. So let's see how it looks like with the tongue in there. Maybe like a smaller area. Let's get that so we don't need to wait too much. And maybe resolution a little bit lower as well. Yeah, that's too much. So let's do a 6 in here. Fast render, and then we see if it's looking okay, and then we can do a little exploration in the shader. It's a little slow because it's kind of loading all those maps right now. But normally after it loads, the next time is always faster. It's a little bit surprisingly slow, actually. It has to do sometimes, you know, it's like if you have your HDRI maps and instead of like, let's say like one sample that you have like by default for the HDRIs, if you put like 2 samples, that's normally what I use. So it gets a little bit nicer and less noisy details from the lighting itself. But then if you crank like to 3 sometimes, it starts like getting very slow overall. So I have to check my lighting. So for example, like maybe for the final renders, I tweaked one of them or a couple of them to actually have more samples. That's why it's a little slow. But yeah, let's, I'm gonna keep it on the side here. And I think I'm gonna just explore the shader and see if it's gonna keep rendering or not. So for the tongue, let's see, I think I have full on subsurface. So yes, so ignore the base. So nothing here. Specular, so I'm using like 0.6, and then the roughness is not like super sharp mirror-like. So it's like more like 0.060. Mirror-like would be like 0.005 or something like that. You know, it's like almost like the closest you get to 0.00, of course, you're gonna be more mirror, right? And then index of refraction around that. For transmission, I don't have any transparency, so nothing there. And then so for the subsurface, what I have like full on subsurface, that same color that we normally use, which here is in 0 to 1. Oh, actually, yeah, it's not quite the exact number that we are used before for the skin itself, which is like 13520, something like that. So it's a little bit different from that, but it's kind of like the peach color. And then random walk 2, I'm having a little bit of front scatter, very little, more than the back scatter. The higher you go with this one, it goes more front scatter, and the lowest it goes like more back scatter, right? And then for the subsurface color, let's see what we have there. So I can open that image. Let's see. I think it's just a single image, which is like very crappy like that. It's very, very pale, actually. I'm actually increasing the color here in Maya by using some you know, it's like tweaks in the shader. But this is basically the color I have painted. Some of those little guys I actually selected with a cavity, and I have those bumps painted a little bit more on the yellow side, like as you can tell in there. But at the end, for the final render, I actually ended up like making everything more pink. It was looking a little sick with those guys. But that's basically what how the map looks like. And then the way I tweaked it, let's see, color balance. So I actually reduced the exposure, so it's probably much darker than that map by, you know, it's like minus 0.4. And the color gain, I have this color here, which actually in HSV is like this. So basically the color gain is shifting more towards pink, right? And again, like it's gonna be all depending of how you painted things in ZBrush, right? You saw my map was more kind of like a peach kind of color, more like skin kind of color instead of like a tongue color. That's why I'm kind of colorizing things here. And it's gonna be depending of your model. And this one here actually shifting a little bit towards like a very dark version of pink, right? Like almost like Bordeaux kind of. And then let's see if I have anything else here. Effects, nope. And yeah, that's about it for this node. And let's see, coat. Oh, the coat, I'm using quite a bit of coat. So we create this kind of like a shiny, you know, glossy effect. So I'm using like 0.9. So it's almost like a full-on super wet, right? And then the roughness is not quite like, you know, it's like on the mirror side. It's a little bit more broad, so 0.15. And the index of refraction is 1.5. And then for the shin, For some reason, I'm using a little bit of sheen, but I don't know why. Maybe to create that kind of velvety kind of effect, but I'm not sure. Probably for that. And then emission, nothing. Geometry, nothing. So I don't have any bump. It's just pure displacement. Because as you can tell, I had a ton of detail in there. But I would probably like add a little bit more of a breakup. You know, it's like maybe add a little micro breakup with that little cell noise that Jason showed us at the group. So I might use that one. And then under advanced, I mean, this one doesn't change anything, right? And so basically, like, because I don't have caustics or, you know, it's like this doesn't change anything. It's not like a transparent object. So basically, like, that's about it. You know, it's like it's just the coat, the subsurface, and the specular that's being, you know, used all together. And the result looks like this so far. So it's rendering like that. It's like what's doing the trick is basically all the little super bumpy surface from ZBrush, right? But the shader itself is quite simple. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Thanks, Chris.
Sure, we can take a look at the help.
Sorry. No, it's something that no one talks about, and I think it's interesting to know how it's done, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff that I never done before, so this is kind of like my first attempt. And, you know, it's like I'm still like kind of researching what's the best for the, you know, to get a little bit of the gummy kind of effect to it, and also have a little bit more of a wetness. My intention is to actually add I did a little test before, and it worked very nicely. That's to create the micro bubbles in between like the gums and the teeth. So for example, like you get those tiny little bubbles from saliva, right? And I did that by using the Z-Sketch and ZBrush. So basically, like, you just like create a Z-sphere, and then you switch to Z-Sketch, and then you go like right in between the teeth and the gums with a very little brush, and you create all those tiny micro bubbles. You just like paint with Z-Sketch all over the place. And then you transform that into geometry. It becomes like meta balls, right? It becomes like those connected little balls in there. And then those guys you can actually bring straight to Maya and put a nice little shader in there, like for water or something like that. And you can get those little micro bubbles. And it adds a lot of, not a lot, but I mean, like the tiny little specks that actually add some realism, but I don't have it here yet. But that's the next step. And yeah, another step is to actually add some saliva dripping from the top teeth to the bottom teeth. So for example, here I would add like some like sticky stuff from the sides, you know, it's like maybe 1 or 2, just to catch some little highlights. But it's the kind of stuff, you know, it's like you can push stuff like as far as you want and as far as the time permits, right? You're gonna, if you die at 100-year-old, you're still not gonna be able to represent everything that you can see like in a human body, right? Like that's all we're trying to do, like, is to paint an impression of something, but you have to pick your battles. For example, if I have a close-up of an open mouth, right? I would probably add something like that. In the case of Stan Winston, I had to post stuff because it was like right at the time to start this class. So I had to post, like, it was kind of the weekend, and then I posted with the open mouth and everything, but it doesn't have the saliva applied to it. But later on, when I'm going to do again, for example, like another pass in the likeness, I'm still not completely happy with the likeness for Stan. Then I'm going to be probably adding this kind of detail. You know, it's kind of like I think things like very incremental steps, like everything. Like I said before, I never finished like one part of the model, and before I move on to the next one, I do a pass, like an overall pass. So for example, I put the textures, everything, and I just do a render. And I was like, okay, so now I can see what's missing in each one of those steps. So what's the battle gonna pick today? You know, so I go, for example, okay, so the skin needs some love in here. Then I apply the skin. So I keep going in circles, you know, and then I revisit everything at the same time and go back and back and back again. And in the case of those portraits, the same stuff. I move away from one of them, and then when I come back, I see all the problems again, and then I do another pass, the entire thing, and then go to the next one, you know. So I have until this weekend to actually bring this model here to a point that I'm happy with, and then from this, so basically, you're gonna move on to the next one, right? And this is gonna be put on hold, but like not finished, right? Like just completely abandoned for now for a month, and then I work in another portrait, and then I don't have classes between August and September. And maybe I'm going to have some time to actually do some personal work, like really personal work without teaching. So I can actually refine those models, you know, and have some stuff that looks more to my taste. But let's get the Hellboy here. Let's open the Hellboy model and see the shaders. So scenes. I don't remember exactly the skin for Hellboy, how I did it. It's as usual, you know, it's like everything is visually, right? Like I just look at the renders and I was like, uh-oh, okay, I think I can push this one. And I think I just like shifted the coloring completely. It's since we have it here, let's open it again in here so I can actually follow the correspondence between the two models, between two softwares, sorry. So Hellboy. So you see, like the name tells me the story, like Hellboy reprojected full body. So that means this, the face was reprojected from some other model. Probably I started with, I believe it was Rick Baker model actually. So this is the renders I posted with the curtains in the back and everything. So let's see. It's a little bit of the grooming in there, but very crappy at this point. Still have to, and none of this, as you can tell, was sculpted with the, let's see if I have it. I might have the guides in there or not. So I have the beard, nose, goatee, and main hair. See, the main hair doesn't have any curves. The goatee doesn't have curves. And let's see the beard. Yeah, none has curves. So it's possible to actually do your grooming without using any of the curves. It's just harder to control, obviously, if you want to block the forms faster. But I mean, all this stuff here was just using the comb brush, right? So, I mean, like, it's the kind of stuff that works every time. If you're not using the guides, it's rarely going to crash on you. You know, it's like if it's just a comb brush, it's going to be fine. So, you know, sometimes I rather avoid the problem and just do it this way. But it's good to know that the guides are there, you know, it's like, and it's useful and everything is just too buggy at this point. So let's look at the shader. Let's get this. Let's look at here. Let's see what I'm doing with the, so the specular is going to be kind of like similar to the skin setup I have. This is like an older setup. So I think what you guys have already for this class should look better. So I'm not going to go through this. I just want to look at the color what I have. So for the subsurface color, so I have a node in here. That's the color correction node, right? The remap color that we are using for our skin as well. But I'm shifting things quite a bit. So like what I'm doing here, let's see. I'm actually playing with a lot of stuff here. I'm actually dragging everything down. So that means like I'm making everything darker than the original. And then surprisingly desaturating the, the red more than I thought. Actually, it's not like I'm desaturating the red. It's still more saturated than the green and the blue. So you can see the green is very low in relation to this one. So it's definitely more saturated than the other ones. It's just that I desaturated the whole thing overall for some reason, just playing with the values. Like I said, I see something visually and I start playing with it. And because this is not like the final model, I was still like trying to understand the color of the skin. So I'm probably gonna have to go back to ZBrush and repaint the skin to something that at some point I can just remove some of those nodes. But this is kind of like a concept work, right? So for the color gaining here, probably because I was seeing visually and it was looking too red, so I actually cranked a little bit of the towards the blue in here. So let's do a little render here. Let's see how it turns out and if we can play with some of those values. Let's eliminate everything, just keep the lighting. Let's get this and the HDRI. HDRI, where is it? Oh, select from here, it's easier. This guy, yes. And then we don't need that. think that's all I have. So it's just like the HDRI and one light. So let's try that. So it's faster for us to render. Let's get to Arnold. And hope it's not going to take too long. Let's see what I have here. Oh, I have 9. Oof. And the spec's pretty high too. So let's optimize that a little bit. 6. Yeah, that should be faster now. It's coming. And then for the color, man, this looks so weird with that little PP. Let's go to the color and see if I have something painted. So you see what I have here? Basically, like I have a skin color, and everything I'm colorizing, it's using Maya to do the coloring. So basically, like the color I have for the skin, it looks like this. Probably came from Rick Baker as well. So it's like a regular, actually I did like the first render I did was with a skin color like this. It looked kind of weird, you know. It looked like Hellboy with like a regular skin. It looks a little weird. But you see like the rest of the body, I just have an average of that color, but I don't have any detail just yet. And then this entire thing I'm shifting by using those nodes in Maya. So let's see, this is like depth of field as usual. So let's turn it off.
That's a cool approach.
Let's try. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's like a, let's see. I think I have more control that way, you know. It's like just shifting it instead of like painting the actual color. But I might be wrong. I mean, there are so many ways to do stuff. But so let's try this. Because I'm shifting everything, that means I still preserve some of the detail, you know. For example, like you're probably still going to be able to see like the stubble and some of the lips color, slight variations and stuff that's coming from the color map. It's just like everything shifted to red. Let's try that. And then we can actually play with those values once we have one render. Yeah, there you go. That's going faster now. It's very red, right? Especially like looking at the, now that I have this stuff here in the room, you know, it's like I can actually see it's a very red, it's almost like fake look to it. And the thing is like, the pieces I have that are like made out of foam, so they're not like, they don't have like a high index of translucency, so they're not like very subsurfacey. They are more like rubber looking. And then if you want to try to do something like that to make it more rubber looking, you're probably going to have to mix the base color with the subsurface. So normally if I'm going to go for something that's rubber, let's just wait for the lips to finish here. So I can actually save this. And then you can just play with the values. Like that. Okay. Okay, now it's coming. So you see, like I still have a little bit of coloring from the stubble that you can see underneath, and the lips that are slightly reddish, redder than the rest of the face. So let's just wait for this part here, and then I can cancel it. Prepare to store it. There you go. That's good. So let's cancel it, and then let's look at those values in here. So for example, stuff I was mentioning before. That's all. So here, for example, the base, right? I'm not using it right now, but I plugged the map in there and I shifted towards red again. But if I want to go more like a rubber feeling, I would just like use the base, just mixed with the subsurface. So basically like here in the subsurface, I would bring this value down. Actually, I'm doing this, look at that. So for the skin here, I'm actually using a little bit of a rubber approach, I guess, because instead of like 1 for the subsurface, I'm using 0.85, and then 15% is coming from the diffuse. So that means it looks a little bit more rubbery than it would look like from like a real skin, right? So I guess I went that approach. And then the the scale is a little bit less than what I'm using right now as well. I'm kind of like at 140, 150, and this one was 110. It was still random walk, so I'm not using random walk 2. So, but let's see if we played with this color here. Let's see the radius, what I have in the radius. It's the same color, but shifted towards what? Yeah, so it's the same color, but it's just like the offset is all the way towards this color here. So basically that's what I did for the radius. So basically, like, instead of being a plain color, it's the same map, but just like shifted all the way to the peach kind of color. And then for the coloring here itself, let's play with those things. So let's say if I bring this stuff up to like a normal color, let's see what happens here. So let's put this up, this down, and it has linear. That's the default. So up, down, linear, default. This one up, down. In theory, you should get something much different now. Let's see what happens. Oh, there you go. So that's the skin color right there. So that's how I was actually making everything look a little bit less. So basically, like, I brought everything down a little, just so I could get a little bit more of a little bit darker color, right? But then I kept this guy a little higher than the other ones. Let's bring the green down. Bring the blue down. That's basically like it's a darker version of that, right? So let's compare it. Yeah, I love this this remap color node. You know, it's like you can do so much with it. So basically, like from that to that, just with the same color map, you know, just by shifting things using a node. Still, the skin has a little bit of a feeling of skin, right? Like even with a little bit of the diffuse applied together with the subsurface. I kind of go back and forth with that, you know. It's like in the past, I would always mix a little bit of diffuse with the subsurface because I always thought it was too translucent. But then I kind of like, I ended up like, you know what? It looks nice like this. I like the feeling of it. So this is like 100% subsurface. But yeah, for this guy here, it's a little bit rubber. Yeah. So that's basically my approach, Omid. I hope it helps.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
Yeah, no problem. And good luck with your model, man. I cannot wait to see with all the detail, you know. It's going to take a long time because it's a lot to cover.
Yeah, personally cannot wait to see
it. That's awesome. Well, guys, we're kind of like right at 11:30, but before I give you the final word, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much.
Blessed.
Thank you so much again, you know, for all the support, and you know, it's like really appreciate everything. And you know, it's like I never thought like I would be able to like teach from home and doing something like that, you know. And it's just like cool to share some knowledge as well. I know like my ways of doing things are a little bit wacky sometimes, but I mean, like I always focus on the results, you know. It's like it's always like a very visual kind of thing, you know. It's like really trying to find the fastest and its simplest ways to do stuff, and still produce like very high quality stuff, but using very simple approaches. And I think it's a good philosophy to have, instead of like complicating things and adding a ton of nodes that you don't need, you know. And then obviously, like, you're free now to expand on everything that I just told you guys. I mean, like you can push this stuff like much further if you want to. And I probably like in the course of the next classes, I'm gonna be trying like different approaches and stuff like that, and pushing myself as well. You know, it's like, because that's I guess the meaning of life, right? Like to keep learning, and I know like the price of the class, like it's not the cheapest out there, because people complain about price all the time. But compared to a lot of classes I'm seeing, the recent ones, the price is really, really cheap for the amount of information and for the amount of time that we're spending. I mean, like there are people like charging almost as much for 1 hour every week. So basically, like we streaming for like 1 hour every Wednesday or something, and charging almost the same. You know, I was like, man, and I'm pretty sure the content's not the same either. So I'm very aware that the price is very reasonable, but I'm actually doing this also to give back to the community. You know, it's like to kind of like see good artists like you guys, you know, like pushing things further and like improving your work. You know, it's like a lot of you guys are such like badass artists already. You know, it's like just to give that extra little juice to your work. I think gonna make me very happy to see any improvement in your work. You know, so thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
man.
man. You're
I
you're
cannot
amazing.
believe it's finished.
No, awesome.
Yeah, it's the best part of my vacation because I make the deal 1 week before I start my vacation, and I had 3 weeks free, and I started to work last week, and yeah, this was the best part. And
Oh, that's awesome, man. So glad.
And I don't have words to express. I think everybody feel the same.
Yeah, like, man, like I said, I mean, like, I don't think that I'm not tired, because I get tired very fast, especially like being an old man like me. But I mean, like, I just keep pushing, you know. It's like pushing because that's like part of my therapy, you know. It's like if I don't do my personal work, I think I'm gonna go insane. It's just like doing work for someone else, you know, you have no control over. I mean, like, it's the best part, you know. It's like just like, and being part of a community with you guys, you know. It's just like sharing stuff, Instagram, you know. That's awesome. So,
and the approach that you give for these classes, I had the classes with the Mauricio Takiguchi in Brazil, in São Paulo before.
Yeah.
And I think you have almost the same philosophy that he said all the time, that we don't need to look for just for the end of the journey. The way that we got going through to finish the journey of the life, it's the more pleasure part, because just to feel the pleasure when you finish something, it's the reward that the industry trying to push all the time, and you discover the pleasure to make the way very pleasure, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's if you finish something, it's just the cherry at the top, because like the whole trip it's the important part. The journey is the important part, right? Learning all those things, you know. It's like, and every time you struggle with something, and it's gonna come, you know. It's like the struggle is gonna be constant, you know. It's like you're gonna be struggling to get the likeness correct, you're gonna be struggling to get the skin correct, and no matter how many times you did this, every character is a new set of challenges, you know. It's like it might be the hair, it might be the type of skin you're gonna get into. And but the thing is, like, it's that reward that comes about learning something every time, you know. So
to be honest, I'm not prepared to grab another computer, but my computer that fries completely trying to deal with these classes, and I got another one without intention, but I'm glad because I can go forward with my learning, and I think I will make something different, because the things that I did before don't need to have the better
computer,
hardware or but yeah, I'm so glad to be part of these things, and I need to apologize myself because I speak too much and I say a lot of bullshit, and I think my friends start to be angry with me, and sorry guys.
It's okay. All right, guys, well, thank you so much again.
Question.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. It's about the file, the render file you said. Are you going to send the link to download it, or is it on somewhere? I couldn't find it.
Okay, I will give my email here, and everybody can talk with me, and I can share using the WeTransfer.
Okay, well, what's the file you guys talking about again?
The render, the render you're gonna share.
The render? What do you mean?
The light setup, right?
The light setup.
Oh yeah, the lighting. Yes. So this one I'm gonna be sending to you guys probably like over the weekend. So I'm just gonna save and clean up that scene, because I think like I have my lights. They're kind of like they're kind of locked. I just unlocked by actually undoing the group I had in there. But once I have it clean and everything, then I just send to you guys. I'm gonna put like a little sphere in there as a reference, and then for scale, yeah. But don't worry, you should come like between like Saturday and Sunday, and then yeah, and then for this weekend, Saturday we have our reviews, the last one. So make sure like it's now like 11:36. So that means you have close to like basically like a 24 hours and 30 minutes to post something. And so please send me to that to the Google Drive. If you can drop it out there, you know, it's like inside of the folder. I can check things out, and then we go from there.
Chris.
Yes.
About the review session, I don't think I have something advanced enough for you to review.
Okay.
Can I use my time slot, as to speak, like to ask you specific questions about your model, like how you do transitions between the ear and the cheek, like you were doing, but you didn't have enough time to complete?
That's a good question. It's gonna be it's gonna be a little tricky. I would rather, for example, like for example, if you ask like in the group, and I can post like maybe like some screenshot or something like that, or talk about it, because like during the reviews, it would be important, I guess, like if the people have something in their work they wanted to review, you know. So for example, yeah. But I wouldn't mind like doing like in the group, you know, it's like if you ask like, so how would you approach this? But let's think about that, because let's see, let's do like the morning ones. For example, like we're gonna have the reviews in the morning and try to get as much as possible done in the morning, because most of the people want in the morning anyway. And at least this was the deal last time. And then let's save like the night review, and then we can do this at the very end. What do you think about that?
Oh, great.
Okay,
great.
Yeah, let's do that. Yep. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one, and I see you in 24 hours? No, a little bit more than that. It's gonna be a Saturday morning here, so watch for the time zone. So it's gonna be Los Angeles time at 9 a.m. and then again at 9 p.m. See you guys next time.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
See you
Right.
later.
See ya.